Hello and welcome back. It's puzzle time with Sudoku Sleuth, and today we're playing chess lines. Now, just a couple of things about today's puzzle before we get into it. So, I featured a very similar puzzle, essentially almost like the second one in the series from GDC, last weekend. I say last weekend, it is literally this weekend. It's just I enjoyed it so much that I decided I want to play the harder puzzle. Even though it's got a slightly lower rating with 85% compared to 97% for minor pieces, I enjoyed the rule set so much that I just wanted to actually play it, and I thought I would record it. Now, I'll continue to keep an eye on how well minor pieces does, and depending on your comments, I may end up posting this video or I may not. I'm not entirely certain just yet, but regardless, I'm absolutely certain that I am going to enjoy it for sure, and then we'll figure out whether I'm going to be posting it or not in a second. Now, if you haven't played minor pieces, I highly recommend that you do first. And you can see from this thumbnail that it's all about chess. So the idea is that GDC has created a new rule set that fuses chess with Sudoku. And essentially you end up with all of these lines all over the grid that are to its corresponding chess piece, and essentially the puzzle, the digits between each neighboring cell on the line must be a valid chess move according to the piece that it's on. Now, if you're confused already, don't worry, I will take you through the rule set. It's a little bit complicated, especially since we have a few more chess pieces to play with. So, I am essentially recording this a week in advance. Nevertheless, I'm excited to get going. Let's take a look at today's puzzle. So, chess lines by GDC, and the following set of rules. Really, it's just normal Sudoku rules and then the chess line rule set. Normal Sudoku, this is why we're all here. Place the digits 1 to 9 once each in every row, in every column, and in every 3x3 box without any repeats. Now, here's where it gets a little bit tricky, and I'm deliberately going to actually put up in parallel kind of the numpad here on the screen. So that seems to be right next to my head. Hopefully it won't obscure it every now and again, but if it does, don't worry about it. You just still know what I look like. Now, essentially, each of these lines, as you can see, has a label next to it that shows what kind of chess piece it is. So this is meant to be a bishop, this is a king, this is a pawn, this is a rook or castle, this is a knight, and this is the queen. So that's all the pieces that we have in place today. And I think that is all the chess pieces, isn't it? Pawn, rook, knight, bishop, queen, king. Yeah, that is literally every chess piece. So the key thing in here, and you can see from the rule set, but it really only talks about what is the knight line and the pawn line. And this is where I would say, if you haven't played minor pieces, definitely go check it out first, because I think this is going to be a much harder puzzle, given A, there's a lot more pieces, and it is a 3-star difficulty rated, and there are even comments suggesting that it should really be 4 stars rather than 2 or 3. So, a bishop can only ever move diagonally, as you're well aware. So as you can see here on this kind of numpad, let me just double check that this is visible, that my mouse is visible to you. Yeah, that looks fine. So essentially, the bishop can only ever be moving diagonal. So imagine if this is a 2, well, the next move has to be a diagonal, either a 4 or a 6. And then the next move, I guess because it's still in the same box, well, it can't be a 2, it would actually have to be a 5. So you're essentially going 2, 4, 8. This could now be 4 or 6, but as long as you're moving in a diagonal, you're going to be absolutely fine. Key thing about bishops, it's almost like bishops in chess, where it's either odds or evens. As you can see on this numpad, essentially the bishops are kind of stuck moving between only odds or only evens, just like black and white bishops in chess. We also have knights, for example. If this was a 1, you need to move on the numpad a valid knight move away, which is, either 1 step to the side, 2 steps down. So that could be an 8 next to it. That could also be a 6 next to it. You can see that L shape, that classic L shape that a knight would make whenever it's moving around. And again, back from the 8, let's say, that could be 1 or 3. From the 6, that could be 1 or 7. And you end up with this sort of oscillating pattern between odds, evens. Notice that there is no 5 on here. It's almost like a German, like a parity line almost, without a 5 on it. Because if you try a 5, there is no valid knight move to any other cell. They're all either, they're all either one step away or diagonal step away. It is not an L step away. Right, so those are knights. Castles, I think we're going to interpret these to mean they can move kind of up and down, left and right. And obviously they can go through multiple moves. So there's nothing wrong, for example, with doing something like 7, 9, and then 6, 4. That would be absolutely valid. You can go from 7 through to 9, to 6, through to 4. You don't necessarily have to step along every one. Same is true, of course, when it comes to the bishops. I can go from 1 through to 9. I don't actually have to step through the 5. What else have we not explained? So we've got the pawn, and GDC does explain that in the rule set. Essentially, it can only move one cell up or down. So it can do something like 2, 5, and 8 in the example that he's given. You can see very clearly that this is sort of the column where it's going 2, 5, 8. I guess it could do 7, 4, 1. It almost doesn't matter as long as it's going up or down. Clearly, we're not talking about taking pieces, so it's not doing any diagonals according to the rule sets. You're all familiar with how a queen moves. Let's say if this is a 5, pretty much every other number is reachable because a queen can move diagonal. Even if this was a 7, it can actually move multiple steps. It can go through to a 3. So that's absolutely fine. And then a king is essentially just like the classic king move. If that was a 4, well, there is actually a lot of valid cells. It can go to 1, 2, 5, 8, or 7, but it can't reach 3, 6, or 9. They are more than one step away. So, complex rule set today. Nevertheless, I am really excited to give this a go. And hopefully, but as I walked you through these rules, you almost have a bit of an inclination about how to potentially solve it. And anything left to say before we get started? Of course, if you want to conquer chess and Sudoku, link will be in the description down below for you to play along as usual. And with that said, I'm going to restart the clock and see how I get on. Am I going to leave the numpad on? I probably will. Right, so remember, bishops are always either odds or evens. We can't bounce around between different polarity. Knight, and I don't know which is kind of odd or even, so I'm going to use different colors. So this is purple. So every other cell will also be purple. And then the in-between cells, I'm going to go for green. And let's just take a look at sort of the interactions between all of these lines here and try and figure out what's going on. So you can see that, so purple and green are clearly different polarities. That's kind of the nature of the knight move on these chess lines. And therefore, I have either 3 evens. Well, I have 3 evens and 3 odds. I just don't know which one's which. And therefore, red has to be odd, because it's essentially either purple or green, and whichever one it is, that's 5 of them. So red is definitely orange. I'm going to make orange odd, blue for even, and therefore this is definitely blue, and we're going to try and figure out in a moment which one this is. Can I figure it out? Let's have a think about this. So what are my options? Right, here's what I'm thinking. So there are no 5s on any of these. There is a 5 definitely down here. Now that will restrict the possible valid king moves for the 7, because essentially I can't go to a 5, I can only go to a 4 or 8, and I have to move. I assume I can't just stay on the same cell. So this is even. And I don't have a 5. So I can, of course, go back to 7. I could go, I mean, there's a ton of options. So sorry, I'll think out loud. There's a ton of options, but I'm just still trying to see if I can try and figure out in row 5 different parities so that I can force one or the other. That's what I'm trying to do. I have one of each. Like, if you think about it, I've already got, if purple is even, I've already got 4 evens, and that would require 2 odds in here, which is impossible without the 5. So going back to the king's move, if these 2 were odd, it almost doesn't matter what this cell is. We know it's not 5. It's from 1. I'm guessing I can reach pretty much anything. Yeah, I can reach 1, 7, or 9. It doesn't matter which one I pick. But whichever 1, 7, or 9 I pick, because I can't stop at a 5, the 5 is down here because none of these are 5s, you can't have a 5 on a knight move, then this can't be. They both can't be odd. So a long way of saying that there is definitely one odd in here, and well, there's definitely one even, there's 2 evens, there's 3 evens, that's the 4th even, the green, can't be purple or already be at 5. So green is even, purple is odd, and then we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and this is odd, and then one of these 2 is a 5. We'll figure that out in a second. And look at this, now we've got 5 odds in column 2. That means all of these are even. Bishop has to be the same color. All of these are even. All of these are odd. I'm just trying. We haven't really played before with the rook. And having 4 consecutive odd digits feels... So here is something. Imagine any one of these cells is a 5, which is in here. How can I move to any other odd digit? And the answer is I can't if it's a castle, because any valid move will stop me off at an even digit. So there is no 5 in here. This is the 5. No 5s in here on the... Oh, hang on. Sorry, no 5s in there. This is a 5. This is a 5. 5 now has to be in one of these 2 cells. Remember, knight lines have to oscillate. I only have one more even digit left in the box. All of these now have to be odd. These are odd. This is even. This is odd. And we're making progress. The fact that we have 5s on this bishop line makes it a bit tricky, because essentially it means I can put any odd digit in here. It almost doesn't matter. These, however, are not 5 or 7. They're 1, 3, or 9. One of these is a 3. And I can sort of prove that on the numpad in here, because you can never get across from 1 through to a 9. You can never go diagonally across the numpad with only 2 knight moves. You could, if you try, you're going to struggle. You're going to go, let's say I've got 1 and 9 in here. Which number on the numpad links the 1 and 9 with knight moves apart? And the answer is none. 1 can only connect to 8 or 6, and 9 can only connect to 4 and 2. So there has to be a 3 on here. This is 1 or 9. That's all 4 digits done. Now I have a 3 connecting the 1 or 9. The 3 can only reach 4 or 8. This is another 1, 3, 9. Because it's not 5, it's not 7, it's 1, 3, 9. Again, one of these has to be a 3. This is 4, 8. This is 2, 6. I think this has to be solvable from here. I mean, obviously the puzzle overall is solvable, but I think I can figure out which one is a 3. I imagine that some of these will break the puzzle. I'm just trying to figure out what it would be. Let's think about this. Sorry, I really should kind of think out loud here. So, the nature of the 3, let me just think about this for a second. Let's say this is a 3. This would make this 4, 8, because again, the 3 has to be surrounded by numbers that it can reach. And then these two cells would be different. And then this would have to be 3. I mean, so far I'm not seeing the problem. Sleuth, you're just not thinking enough. This is the 3. And the answer is kind of so obvious. We're surrounded by 4, 8, and we know that they're 2 different digits. So which odd number is reachable by a knight move from both 4 and 8? And the answer is only 3. So this is a 3. That's not a 3. This is 1, 9. This is therefore 7, 9. In here is, hang on, it's not 7, 9, excuse me, 3, 7. And in here is another 3, 7 with some odd digits. We'll figure that out in a second. Therefore, this is not a 3. These are different 1, 9s. This is not a 3. Now, imagine if this is a 3. Whatever this number is, it almost doesn't matter. All that's saying is, because of the way the knight move is working, let's say this is a 1, you can see immediately that this would have to be the 8 on the numpad. Now, how am I going to link the 1 and 3 again? Well, only the 8 would do, and then you break the puzzle having the 2 numbers in the same box. So this has to be a 7. There has to be a 3 in here. The 3 is not reachable from the 4 or 8, so we actually know which one it is. That's the 3. And this would have to be, well, it's going from, if it's going to 7, then to 4, it would have to go to 2 to get 3, or it would go 7, 8, 6 to get 3. So this is 2 or 6. The 7 is surrounded by 2, 6. Just the valid knight move, even digits are around it. Now I've got a 2, 6 pair. That's a 4, 8. This 2 or 6 can reach. Well, it can't reach a 3. They're right next to it. So this is 1, 9. This is a 3. This has to be a 7. Just with the way the bishops move, if it's not moving to a 5, it can only be a 7. So that's a 7. Then I'm going to a 5, and then this is, I mean, it could be anything, 1, 3, or 9. It's not 1 or 9, and it's not a 7. It is, in fact, a 3. We can see that there has to be a 7 now in here. Back to the whole diagonal thing, this can't be a 7 with a 3. I mean, we've already got the 3 anyway. So 1, 7, 9, 1, 7, 9. Back to the 2, 6, because again, the 7 can only reach 2 or 6. So there is essentially either a 1 through to a 6 through to a 7, or a 9 through to a 2 through to a 7. And obviously that order could be reversed, so we don't exactly know. This is 1, 3, or 9. Don't know, too many options. I'll need to restrict it a bit more before I can really think about this one. Whatever this cell is, it's the same one in here. Essentially, these three are different from that. The fourth even digit has to be this one. So that's 2 or 6. How am I going to force some decisions on this? This seems to be like, it's just slipping away, really. 139, 179. So the pawn is in the middle, is 4, 5, 6. So because it's all in the same row, they all have to be unique digits. And remember, the pawn can only move one cell at a time. So essentially, it's either 147 or 741, 258 or 852, 369 or 963. You can see the middle cell, whatever it may be, has to be from 456. There you go. Got it. Right. Options for the knight. For the pawn. So one option is that both of these are odd and this is even. Essentially something like 147. But if I go with that setup, where does 5 go? The answer is nowhere. I've got 5 odd digits. At least I've colored them odd. But this is 1 or 7 or 3 or 9. This is 1 or 7 or 3 or 9. It's not a place for a 5. And of course, we've already ruled out the 5 because 5 on a rook would have needed to stop over into an even digit. So a long way of saying this is the 5. This is 2 or 8. It's 4 or 6 down here. So I love the fact that the king, once again, doesn't have a 5. And if it doesn't have a 5, well, it doesn't have to oscillate. Unfortunately. I was going to say I have to have an odd and an even. It's not entirely true. I can actually have 2 evens. No, I can't, because it would be 4 and 6. Because this is 2, 8. 4 and 6, they're not one step away from one another, as you can see on the numpad. So I do, in fact, have an odd digit with an even digit. And the even digit is 4 or 6. Now, if it's a 6, it'll be a 9, because 3 is not available. That's the only thing that can reach it in terms of odd digits. If it's a 4, it would be 1 or 7. And in fact, it is a 7, just Sleuth. How about some classic Sudoku? Because there is a 7 on here, can't reach a 6 from there. So this is 4 or 6. No, not 6, 4 or 7. This is now 2, 6, 8. Again, no 4s. This is the only place now for a 4 in this 4-cell setup. And I bet we can restrict it even further because essentially this bishop is going around either clockwise or counterclockwise around the even digits. So the only number from 2 and 6 that is adjacent, according to a bishop, is the 2. So it's going 2, 4, 8, 6, and all of this is stunningly forced. I mean, we can see that the 2 is down here, which is our 4th odd digit, sorry, even digit. So this is odd, and it's not 7, and it's not 5, and it's not 3. It's actually quite restricted, this cell. It's 1 or 9. Got a 5 as well down here, with 1 of 139. We don't know yet which one. So let's think about what's left in here. I need a 6. Well, it's not the 2, 6 side. The 6 is in one of these 2 cells, figure out which one it is in a second, but that means that gives me a 2, that gives me a 6. That will allow me to solve all of this now. So this is 7, 2, that's got to be a 9. This is a 1, 6, 1, comes back to an 8, a 4, 3, 4 goes to a 9, a 1, a 9. That's not 1 or 9, that's a 3. This will give us quite a bit in a second because of the way the rook is sort of set up. This is between 9 and 7, can only be a 2. That's not a 2. Can I clean up any further? I mean, I can. This is 1, 2, 5, I'm going to venture, except that's not a 2, that's not a 1. That's not a 4, that's a 7, that's a 4. Can carry on doing a bit of coloring. I've got 3 evens in column 4. I know what this cell is. It is in fact a 6. A 6 can't be next to a 9. It is, or a 3. This is forced. That's a 1. The 1 can go through to a 6 and onto a 7, which it isn't. So it will have to actually go back to a 1. It will go 1, 6, and then back to a 1. That's not a 1 either. That's a 2, 5 pair. That's the 1. What are these cells? We've got 1, 2, 3, 4. We need 5, 6, and 8. This is not 6 or 8. In fact, it's just 5. That's not a 6. That's an 8. That's a 6. That's all solved. Can I do better? I need an 8 in one of these two cells. Well, the 8 is not on the 2, 8. That's the 8. That's the 4. That's a 2. The 2 is going to connect a 7 and 9. So that's not a 1. That's a 7, 9 pair. That's a 1. This is 6 and 9. Well, that's not. The 9, that's a 6. That's a 9. More coloring. Real progress now. Odds. 7, 9, 3, 5. And then 4, 6, 8. Except that's not a 6. Sorry, I'm going to be pedantic today about the colors because it really is a polarity puzzle and we need to stay on top of it. Right, I did say we'll come back to this. So the 3 can either go 1 or 9. Essentially, we're going clockwise again, similar to how the bishop did here with the 2, 4, 6, 8. So it's either going clockwise or anti-clockwise, excuse me. So this has to be a 7. Because essentially it's either going 3, 1, 7, 9 or 3, 9, 7, 1. That's a 1, 9 pair. This is now 4, 6, and 3, I'm going to say. 3, 4, 6. That's not a 3. That's an even cell. We know what these are. This is not useful actually right now. Maybe I should just kind of venture down this way, such as these are 7, 9s. This 7 or 9. Let's imagine it's a 7. Well, I can't move to 4 or 1, already gone. Can't move to an 8, it's already gone. Can't move to a 9 because I've got a 7, 9 pair and the 9 is gone. So I'm pretty sure that can't be a 7. Let me just check that. Yeah, 1, 4 not available, 8, 9 not available. That's all the valid rook moves. So that has to be a 9, that has to be a 7. Second, I'm going to find that it can't be even a 9, but let's just run with it for a second, celebrate it. Right, so the 9. Well, it can't be 8, it can't be 7, can't be 6. Thank goodness it can be a 3. So at least there is one valid move. That gives me a 5, that gives me a 3. Right, where can the 3 go next? Well, it's not 6, it's not 9, it's not 1, it can only be a 2. That's fine, that gives me 5, that gives me 2. And then the 2 in here can move. Well, it's not 1, it's not 3, it could be 5, it can't be a 5, it is in fact an 8. Lovely. That's not 8. These are, well, I mean, we can just complete them. Whatever this is, that's a 5. That's a 4. Right. Has that 4 given me something? Yes, it has. That's an 8. That's a 4-6 pair, not resolved. Let's keep it going. What else do we know? I know that this is an 8. And how do I know that? Is classic Sudoku. No 8s in any of these. 8 has to be in there. That's the only place for it. That's an 8. To get to a 3, this has to be a 6. That's not a 6. That 8 gives me a 2, an 8. I did say earlier this was not useful to complete, but it is now. 1, 4, 7. That's not a 7. These are 2, 5, 9, I'm going to say. 2, not 3. That's not a 2. That's not a 5. This is an odd digit. We know what these 3 are. This is 2, 3, 7. That's not a 2. That's not a 7. That's not a 3. I'm not seeing any kind of like pairs form up. So clearly this line is needed. And we're going to have to think about it in a moment. So what do we have on it for sure? We definitely have a 9 on it. Right, let's do classic Sudoku first. No 8s, no 8s. 8 is in here. I need a 1 in one of these 2 cells, which lines up with these ones. I've got a 1 X-wing. No 1s in these 2. That's a 1. Still not giving me the pairs that I need. This is now 1, 4, 6. So now I have a 9 in here. So let's just think about this. And it's unfortunate that it's the queen because it can basically go anywhere. One thing that it can't do is a 9 cannot reach a 4 directly anyway. And we actually have a 5. So the 5 is not in the center. The 5 is in one of these cells. And what is... So the 5 and 9 can reach one another for sure. I mean, the 5 can reach anything, so it almost doesn't matter which one is the 5. What it matters is what else it isn't. So can I have a 9 in the middle? Sorry, in the corner. So if one of these is a 9, that's not a 5. It's 4 or 6. It would have to be a 6, which it isn't. So I don't think I can have a 9 in the corners, can I? Let's just kind of write this all down. So I've got essentially 4, 6, 5, and 9. This is not 5 or 6, just Sudoku. And, sorry, the 5. So this is now 4 or 9. Now, even if this is not a 9, it would be a 4. And the 4 can't possibly reach a 9. Essentially, it's a knight's move away. That's not a valid queen move away. So none of these are 9. Where does 9 go now in row 8? This is the only place for a 9. That's a 2, that's a 3, that's a 4, that's a 6. That's not a 6. That's not a 6 either. It's not giving me any real triplets. That's a 3. That's a 7. That's a 2. Not a 2. That's a 5-9 pair. That's a 4. That's a 7. That 4 doesn't do enough. Come on, Sleuth. So very nearly there. We're going to have to count colors for a bit. One of these is a 6. Not very helpful. One, 2, 3, 4. So I need 1, 5, or 9 in here. Well, that's not it. Come on. Thing is, like, all of these seem valid. I'm just clearly missing some Sudoku that actually brings it all home, and I'm just not seeing it for some reason. How am I not seeing it? One, 4, 5, 9. 1, 5, 6, 9. From the 9 I can reach both the 6 and the 5, so this is not the way you're meant to solve it. Sort of classic sleuth, getting stuck at the very end. Did I break it elsewhere? Is that why I'm sort of struggling here? So I am going to just double check. This can go 4, 7, that's fine. This is 2, 5, 8, that's fine. 3, 5, 7, 3, 5, that's fine. 9, 2, 7, 2, 9, 4, 3, 8, 1, 6, that's fine. 9, 2, 7, that's fine. 1, 6, 1, also okay. 9, 3, 2, 8, all looks good to me. 7, 8, 6, 3 also looks good to me. Am I just kind of being very thick right now and missing something extremely obvious? That's the only plausible explanation. It's all been kind of incredibly smooth. So, and right now it looks like both solutions work. 3, 1, 7, 9 or 3, 9, 7, 1 up here. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm sure some of you are now shouting at your screen saying, Sleuth, just pay attention, it's right there, but I really can't see it unless I've made a mistake like I said elsewhere. Two, 4, 8, 6 looks good. I'm so sorry about this. I'm just gonna randomly type in a number. What happens if this is a 5? That's 9. 1, 9, 5, 4, 6, 1, 4, 6. It seemingly works. So I've broken it somewhere and I just can't see it because it looks like both answers are valid, which just cannot be the case. Yeah, it's not marking it as correct, so I've broken it somewhere. And I'm not seeing it for some reason. Five, 9. There you go, that's why. Sleuth, the 9 and 4 can't be connected. Why did you not see that earlier? So that has to be the 5, that has to be a 6. It's just that whenever I looked at it, I just sort of looked at the 6 and 9 connections and just ignored the rest. So that's my answer. And there is the, well, let me just color these. Fairly sure this is correct now. And if I've not made any further mistakes, that's the 6 for the finish. What a lovely puzzle, GDC. Don't know why it was all going so smoothly and then I just couldn't see the 4 and 9 for some reason. Anyway, I really, really like this rule set. I mean, I've said it already at least once before, let's say, potentially a few more times than that. And I think what I like about it is it just makes you think in new and different ways. But it's just if you do play a lot of chess, it's not that unintuitive, and it's just I'm enjoying the fact that it's connecting these two parts of my brain so well. Well, I hope that you guys enjoyed the puzzle. I mean, anywhere near as much as I have. I absolutely adored it. And I certainly disagree with the rating of the puzzle. Let me know how you guys kind of enjoy this series. So at least I know whether I'm going to continue to feature any more from this type of rule set should GDC create more of them, or if I'm essentially going to put them aside and just enjoy them from my own offline. Hope that you guys enjoyed the puzzle and the video. And big thanks to the channel supporters who you're going to see there scrolling up in a second. And let's see what other parity puzzles you might actually like if you enjoyed this one as well. Bye bye for now.